less than an hour from the cities of Ottawa and Montreal, you'll find the Laurentians, a region that takes its name from the mountain range that forms the beautiful landscape.
There's peace in Quebec, such as you find in the Laurentian Mountains, the playground north of the river shared by Ottawa, Quebec, and Montreal. There's a European feel about these mountains. Sometimes it could almost be the Black Forest.
You see all the round-up mountain?
Yeah. So these are the ancient, basically the structure of the mountains.
The rock is very solid.
Is that the shield?
That's the shield.
The shield, the Canadian
That's
shield.
the shield. Yeah, the Rockies are nice and the Alps, but they're younger. These ones are made from all the wind and the ice from the ages.
The way mountains work is that once they are formed, the elements immediately begin to wear away at them. The wind, the water, the environment slowly chips away and erodes them until they are gone.
Crazy to think that these mountains would have been as big as the Himalayas, or they were at one point.
A billion years ago, yeah.
These are old
It's
mountains.
pretty cool to imagine.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What makes the Laurentians so unique is how accessible it is for visitors and how much wilderness there is to explore.
In summer, these mountains with their lakes and woodlands are for boating and hunting, riding and rambling. In winter, they're for skiing and skating and all the snow sports. All the year round, they are East Canada's favorite holiday land.
The Laurentians are vast and beautiful, and my journey begins with a hike on the famous Mont-Tremblant.
Guess what? I'm in Mont-Tremblant, that's right, Quebec. This is actually one of my dream destinations, believe it or not. It is a ski resort town. It looks like I'm somewhere in Switzerland, somewhere in France maybe, the Swiss Alps.
Mont-Tremblant's European-style pedestrian village awaits you, with its lodging, shopping and dining right at the base of the highest mountain in the Laurentians.
Qu'est-ce que ça t'inspire, ce point de vue-là, cette photo-là? J'ai rarement vu un horizon aussi loin, aussi montagneux. Je me croirais en avion. Sincèrement, j'ai vraiment l'impression d'être presque au-dessus des nuages.
We finally made it to the peak. Look at this. We're just completely in the clouds. You could barely see in front of you. This is just insane. I'm so happy right now.
Tremblant offers more trails, snow parks, snowmaking capacity, and lifts than any other resort in the region.
I wanted to visit here, one of the places close to my hometown that I didn't visit in my life.
We love weekend getaways, and located only an hour flight from Toronto is Mont-Tremblant.
And this isn't a cottage that we're in right now. This is the actual airport. Their airport is a log cabin.
It's the cutest airport I've ever seen.
I am so excited that we're here.
Welcome to Tremblant.
La petite histoire derrière le nom de la montagne et même de la ville est super intéressante.
La ville s'appelle Tremblant. La montagne, c'est Mont-Tremblant. Mais c'est Manitoga-Soutana.
Ça, c'était les Amérindiens.
C'est ça. Il y a presque toujours du vent. Or, les Amérindiens, eux autres, ils se disaient « Oh, à tremble, cette montagne-là. » Parce que c'est la montagne des esprits.
Dès la fin du 19e siècle, le Mont-Tremblant est reconnu pour son air pur qu'on s'imagine émaner de l'altitude et de la forêt. Par contre, la région demeurait relativement inaccessible. C'est l'arrivée du train, là, c'est ça, là?
Oui.
À Sainte-Adèle.
Le train est arrivé au village de Tremblant même, 1894. Dans tous les autres régions du Québec, vous avez une rivière qui s'en va dans le fleuve. Fait que les gens...
Il ne faut pas venir en bateau.
Ben non, il ne faut pas venir en bateau. Et les chemins en hiver, c'était épouvantable.
Quand le train relie enfin Montréal aux Laurentides, un riche Américain, George Ernest Wheeler, y voit une occasion d'affaires. Développer l'industrie touristique dans la région de Mont-Tremblant. En 1905, il fait construire l'auberge Greyrox qui connaît un vif succès auprès des Américains adeptes de chasse et pêche. Le ski est à l'époque une activité plutôt marginale. Seuls quelques amateurs s'aventurent à partir de Greyrox, traversent la forêt, grimpent la montagne et dévalent le Mont-Tremblant encore sauvage.
On montait soit en escalier ou soit ciseaux.
OK. Mais comme les pistes n'étaient pas déboisées, ça devait être sportif en titi.
Le vrai ski, là, on monte à pied, puis on s'en va dans le bois, puis on se promène.
En 1937, le millionnaire Joseph Ryan séjourne au Greyrox. Il a un coup de foudre immédiat pour le Mont-Tremblant. Il décide d'acheter la montagne pour y ouvrir un mont de ski. Les grands travaux commencent. Construction d'un hôtel, déboisement pour créer les premières pistes et éventuellement en 1939, ouverture du premier télésiège au Canada. On voit le chairlift monoplace.
Oui. Monoplace.
Avec la vue sur le
oui,
lac.
c'est un chair. Hey, c'était à l'époque très, très haut. Il faut s'imaginer que ça devait être quand même quelque chose d'aller au haut de cette immense montagne. Le ski arrive dans les Laurentides pour répondre à une demande qui vient de l'étranger. des gens d'Europe, des États-Unis, qui viennent ici pour pratiquer un sport qui est largement inconnu de la population locale. C'est donc comme un produit, on va dire, d'importation que le ski arrive au Québec.
The ski country of Quebec has everything for the skier. The ski paradise in the Laurentians had ideal weather for a month. Now, early spring-like weather has brought Canadian and American skiers out in record numbers to take advantage of perfect conditions on the famed slopes.
In the 80s, it was the start of snowmaking. Snowmaking was a big revolution to make sure that the mountain could open earlier and then make the season last longer.
Jusqu'à les années 90, on va vraiment développer la montagne. On va en faire un centre de villégiature 4 saisons. On va offrir toutes sortes de services. On va bâtir une hôtellerie aussi qui est conséquente. Et si jamais il y a quelqu'un du 19e siècle qui revenait visiter la montagne aujourd'hui, je pense qu'il serait fortement étonné des transformations qui ont lieu.
Autrefois, la montagne était sillonnée par une seule piste. Aujourd'hui, on compte 102 pistes sur 4 versants. C'est l'acquisition de la montagne par la compagnie canadienne Intra-Ouest en 1992 qui a transformé le Mont-Tremblant en centre de villégiature titanesque.
Look at this beautiful place. Welcome to Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, about 2 hours outside of Montreal.
We are in Mont-Tremblant.
Yay!
It is a cute little town in the mountains.
Stunning.
It's quite a picturesque little village. There are so many beautiful buildings.
I gotta say, man, I really do love this village. It's absolutely beautiful. It's really weird being here during COVID. I've been here probably 12 times in the past, and this place is usually just packed. It just feels good being out here, breathing in the fresh air, man.
It is reminiscent of a Disney-style winter village, and you can easily feel like a kid while you ponder on what cool, fun thing to do next.
So European, oh my god. I've always wanted to come here because it's a lot easier than going all the way to Europe, you know? It looks like I'm in Europe.
Hey, you look a little bit cold. Are you cold?
Freezing, dude.
Yeah, he's from Connecticut. He's cold. Imagine me.
It's still friggin' cold. About minus 20 Fahrenheit here. It was 80 Fahrenheit when I left. So, you know, just 100-degree difference, whatever. But don't get me wrong, I freaking love it here. It's beautiful. I mean, look around.
It's currently 35 degrees Celsius, so it's a good day for ice cream. Definitely no skiing today. But yeah, Mont-Tremblant, not too bad, huh? Not too bad at all.
Le Mont-Tremblant Lodge. Ce qui est vraiment intéressant, c'est qu'on voit ici le bâtiment original de l'époque. C'est entouré du nouveau village qui a été construit dans les années 90. Fait que c'est tout un contraste.
I'm gonna take this little cable car crossing the whole little village. Oh my god, this is so fast.
I love it already.
Wow, it's so pretty.
Oh, wow.
It's really neat how the cable car goes right through the gap that they left in the roof of this hotel.
We're up so high. So if you're scared of heights, don't do this.
This is absolutely incredible.
And while you're up here, you get even more spectacular views of the mountain.
In the resort village, there's about a dozen hotels, 2,000 hotel rooms. There's about 60 or 70 restaurants and shops. So there's stuff happening from morning to night, but there's also mountainside residences and condos. So if you're coming with a whole group of people, there's a few families. You can pretty much have a house in the mountains.
This place has some amazing treehouse style cabins. That one is a legit treehouse on trees. Wow.
Slept in a treehouse last night. This really cool perch built literally into the trees. And woke up, had some coffee at the cabin as the light was coming in. It was really nice.
I don't remember the last time I've been in a wooden cabin like this in the woods. And everything is made out of wood. As you can kind of hear, this is a wonderful living room area. Here's one of the rooms. This is the bathroom with the white birch curtains. The lighting is very, very relaxed, not so bright.
Welcome to my crib.
Let's check it out.
Man, look at here. Oh my god. Even a tablet inside. I never seen it. We got this shower.
Oh, nice. King bed. Where's the TV? Hang on. Oh, how come we don't have that, Javon?
We have to make it.
We rented an Airbnb in the Altitude Condos, this beautiful chalet-style condo complex. Come on in here and take a look at this spectacular view. Glass all the way across, and the fireplace goes right up. Cathedral ceiling there with some beams, and blinds all the way around if you want to have the blinds down, but I can't imagine we will. king-size bed, flat screen TV, principal bathroom. It's got a whirlpool tub over there, and then come on out to the best part.
Look at that. Look where I live. I'm in paradise right now. Well, that's winter wonderland, I'd call it. 'Cause paradise is where I live in Florida.
So we're gonna stay here for a few nights.
Fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna dance to that.
Javon is very excited. I've never seen him so happy to be somewhere.
All right, guys, we finally made it to our Airbnb after a 6-hour drive. We want to be the first ones on the hill tomorrow, so we're gonna head to bed now.
Day 2. We woke up to a winter wonderland in the making. The snow started to fall while we were sleeping and created the perfect conditions for us to finally hit the slopes.
Good morning, guys. It is an absolutely beautiful morning here in Mont-Tremblant. We got some fresh powder last night. I honestly think this is gonna be one of the best days of snowboarding I ever had. Look at this, guys. Aren't these conditions just perfect? I'm so hyped to get on the hill right now.
I've gone snowboarding twice in my life, both times. Not very successful, but I'm gonna give it another try. Every snowboarder I know is really cool. I wanna be cool.
At the top of the peak, you can't even see it right now. It's all in the clouds.
Approaching the hill. I got my board. This is very cool.
We headed up to the summit at the highest peak of the Laurentians.
Whether you're planning to ski down the slopes or you want to see how incredibly beautiful the highest peak of the Laurentian Mountains truly is, take a panoramic gondola ride. There are spectacular views at every angle of every moment.
No wonder they call this the panoramic gondola. What incredible views.
Look at this, guys. Looking out the window, you literally cannot see a thing.
Then, once you get to the top, you get some even more phenomenal vistas. Wow, what a view. Welcome to the summit, everybody.
Welcome to paradise, guys.
Mont-Tremblant is also a very fun and challenging mountain to ski on, 4 different sides. And it's a neat way of traveling throughout the day. You just follow the sun from the north side to the Versant Soleil, and you finish on the south side at the end of the day.
So as you can tell, you can barely see on the runs right now, but we're gonna make the best of it.
My lipstick frozen? Oh my gosh, my lipstick is frozen.
I didn't manage to fall on the hill, although I did manage to knock Justin over on my way down.
How you feeling?
I feel confident. I was terrified of this, but, you know, I'm not scared anymore.
Hey, too much confidence isn't good.
Here we go, buddy. Holy.
I'm so happy right now, guys. You don't even understand. This is life. Little shredders. Woo, let's go. I love to see it. Get them out here young, guys.
How was the race? I won. No, I did. No, I did. No, I did.
How you doing?
Great. That was fun.
That was fun.
What do you think, buddy?
Perfect.
His goggles, his hat, everything came flying off. Oh, Mitch. Tough run for you, eh? How was that first run of Mont-Tremblant, buddy?
Exhausting.
That means good. All right, so we made it to the photo spot here. But you see those mountains in the background? It's gonna make for a really cool shot. Man, it doesn't get much better than that.
Mont-Tremblant also has lots of beautiful hiking trails to check out, like this one here located right beside the main ski hill that goes into the village. It's a little bit rocky, but it's definitely worth it to see this beautiful waterfall. Wow, look at how tall it is. We definitely didn't expect to see this.
Our plan for today is to hike the Mont des Cascades trail. Winter hike, snow and cold. Before it would have stopped us, but not anymore. The air is crystal clear and quiet. Only the crunch of the snow underfoot is a constant companion. This combination, the heart is filled with joy. I would like to wander here as long as possible.
Look at how much snow is on this tree. My work here is done.
Beautiful. Looks like something out of a church. Church of Nature.
Welcome, snowshoeing.
Woo!
It's easy, I'll show you the technique, okay? It's really complicated. Look out.
Oh, I see. You walk.
It's really hard. But you have to
During the whole walk, there were lots of opportunities to see amazing views. Wow, stunning. We even got to see a couple of deer up close and personal. I can't believe how close they let us get. That's the closest we've ever been to a deer before.
Hey buddy, what are you doing over there?
Oh, you scared them.
Évidemment, il y a une faune impressionnante qu'on retrouve sur le territoire du parc. On parle d'un peu plus de 40 espèces de mammifères.
We did it, guys. We made it to the top. One of the biggest, hardest, most rugged accomplishments of my life. Beautiful, beautiful views. And we're gonna pop down, back off the mountain, and head up for some e-biking, some fat bikes with electronic motors that are gonna power us through the wilderness. So that'll be fun. I've never done that before.
There's over 50 Ks of mountain biking trails too, so there's lots of terrain to cover.
Another activity that was a lot of fun was ziplining. It was a little bit nerve-wracking getting to the top of the first tower, and they said this is the smallest zipline to get you warmed up for the rest. Woohoo! Now that's a lot of fun.
We're standing on a frozen lake right now.
And we're about to take off in a helicopter and tour around the area.
If you didn't get high enough in the gondola and want to experience true aerial views of Mont-Tremblant, the best way to do this is to take a helicopter ride for insane views of the Laurentian Mountains and Lake Tremblant.
Incredible! The next step was to go and relax our body, our sore body. So we went to the spa. Spa Scandinave.
It was time to relax at the Scandinave Spa in Mont-Tremblant. The spa has Scandinavian baths where you can try the ancient Finnish tradition of hydrotherapy, where you immerse your body in a hot-cold relax cycle to energize and rest the body, improving blood circulation, activating the lymphatic system to help detox, and also releasing endorphins.
It's so cool.
Currently, right now, the weather is negative 20 degrees out here. So there's an extreme my upper body is really cold, but my lower body is really hot.
This is amazing. It feels so good, but I never want to get out of the top pool in North Dakota. That's going to be a struggle. Love it. Oh, it's frozen.
It's frozen.
I'm gonna jump. Oh, thank you.
That was so cool. My feet are freezing to the ground.
Ice in your hair.
Do I?
Yeah.
Nice.
Good morning. Sadly, today is my last day in Mont-Tremblant. Wish I could stay an extra couple days and just keep skiing. I'm watching some chairlifts go over my hotel right now. There's a deer just chilling out there, being a deer, chewing some stuff.
It's alright guys, we're gonna head on the road now.
I love this place and I love the view. I love the experience. Never experienced something like this before. This is the first time.
Mont-Tremblant for a snowboarding trip. That was
pretty cool.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do remember being just really freaking exhausted on that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's the altitude because it's higher mountain. It's a higher. Yeah. It's Mont-Tremblant is a higher mountain.
La montagne des esprits a bien changé. Si le paysage n'est plus tout à fait le même au fond, Mont-Tremblant n'a pas arrêté de choyer les aventuriers du monde entier.
On entend parler espagnol de plus en plus souvent sur le Mont-Tremblant. Faire du ski dans le froid de l'hiver québécois, une expérience exotique pour les touristes mexicains.
I prefer being all in coats than in swimsuit.
La gente es muy buena, el lugar muy cómodo para esquiar.
On nous a conseillé de venir ici parce que les gens sont gentils et que c'est un endroit idéal pour faire du ski, dit Roberto.
¿Cómo les puedo platicar? La gente que trabaja aquí es súper amigable, inclusive los propios turistas canadienses que vienen a esquiar aquí son súper amigables con los turistas. Entonces, con los turistas extranjeros.
No sé si sean los paisajes de ensueño, los bosques nevados, los lagos o el idioma francés que se escucha por sus calles. Lo cierto es que Mont-Tremblant tiene todos los ingredientes para unas perfectas vacaciones de invierno.
We really enjoyed making today's video, and who wouldn't in a beautiful setting like Mont-Tremblant, Quebec?
It's been another magical adventure in Quebec, and I know the memories I'll keep from the Laurentians will last a lifetime.
It's snowing, oh! Like, I'm so happy right now, just to know that this place and much of Quebec is so close by like this. It's very comforting. It's so awesome that it's this close.
L'évolution du Mont-Tremblant est remarquable. On sait que 11 000 skieurs sont grimpés à bord du Petit Train du Nord pour dévaler les pentes de ski des Laurentides tout au long de l'hiver 1927. 100 ans plus tard, les 14 remontes-pentes du Mont-Tremblant permettent à plus de 27 000 skieurs d'en atteindre le sommet chaque heure.
Say bye. Bye. And that's it for Mont-Tremblant. Oh, it's this way. It's this way.